I like to talk about mindset on this channel, and in today's video I'm going to explain a revelation I had recently that has completely changed my life and helped me massively grow my business beyond bloody belief. I've gone to like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month now. If you told me, when I was 16 years old, addicted to video games, I'd now be making hundreds of thousands, I'd be like, no, you're lying. But it was through this one little mindset shift. Actually, it's not a little shift, it's a huge shift. It took me years to make it. If I could go back in time and go to my 18-year-old self and open up my brain, just take my skull off and then plug this idea into my brain, I would have made way more money, way faster. And that's what I'm hoping I can do for you with this video specifically. Before I explain, my name's Charlie Morgan. I've built and scaled 2 companies. NorthFlow Consulting, it was a marketing agency that we scaled to 7 figures and exited and sold. And I run Imperium Acquisition, which is a coaching business that we scaled to multi-7 figures. We still run it. We help systemize client acquisition for high ticket info and SMMA businesses. We're very fucking good at it. And our mission is to make client acquisition easy. And this YouTube channel facilitates that mission. So let me break this down. So things only hold you back if you give them power. A thing is something that happens to you or something about your life or your existence that can facilitate your goal and help you get close to your goal, or it can reduce your ability and prevent you from getting to your goal. So that's the thing. They're kind of value neutral, right? Where things, they're not good or bad. Like, it depends on how you perceive them, right? If you have ADHD, which is obviously the disorder that prevents you from actually holding your attention for a long time, it could be considered a disadvantage in business, right? Because you find it hard to focus, you find it hard to concentrate, and you cannot for the life of you think, sit down and actually just concentrate on one thing at a time to grow a company and be productive. The problem with that is that yes, ADHD in its raw form can be a disadvantage to you running a business because it inhibits your ability to focus. But you can choose to give ADHD power over you. And this might sound really strange because I've struggled a lot with different mental illnesses and mental health. I wouldn't call it mental illness specifically, because this is the problem with illness, is when you say I've got a mental illness, or I've got depression, or I've got anxiety, or I've got this, or I've got this, or I've got that. This is the point I'm trying to drill, is it's like you give the thing power by telling yourself that you've got it. So I always say people don't have depression, depression has people. I've been through periods in my life where you could look at my life and my mental situation and say that Charlie is depressed. But I don't see it like that, because as soon as I say I have depression, I give depression power over me, and I actually start looking at depression as something that can hold me back from growing and making more money and getting what I want. Another example of this is I had a client once who struggled with stuttering, and he was really worried about doing sales calls because obviously when you're nervous, your stutter gets worse and worse. He gave the stutter power over him. He said, like, I can't get clients because of my stutter. And I said to him, well, why don't you reframe this? Why don't you say that you can get clients, but you can get clients because of your stutter? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, this is a good thing. It makes you unique, it separates you. You can embed this into all of your client acquisition systems, and you can openly tell people, like, listen, I've got this amazing thing. I struggle with a stutter, so bear with me whilst I try and explain it to you, whilst trying to keep myself coherent. I said that to him, like, you can actually use this to your advantage, but things only hold you back if you give them power. It's up to you whether or not you give something power. And I think this is a really important lesson just in life in general, because like an example of this is I've got right now long COVID. The irony there is that I've got statement that I told you not to use, but right now, as diagnosed by a doctor, my body is currently dealing with and struggling with long COVID. So I had COVID back in July. It hit me real hard. I was in bed for like 2, 3, 4 weeks. And the month after, I just couldn't really do anything or think properly. But now I've lost all my strength. I've lost pretty much all my muscle mass, not all of it, but I've lost a lot of my muscle mass because I haven't been able to properly train in the gym. My tolerance for cold showers has gone out the window. I can't run more than 2 kilometers without getting out of breath and feeling like I need to sleep for like 48 hours. And there's all sorts of these things, like my body is at present not capable of doing things that I wanted to do. Now, when I found out I had long COVID, I gave the long COVID power. And this is the example I wanted to give you. I started like telling myself, oh, you can't go to the gym because you've got long COVID, or you can't do this because you've got long COVID, or oh, you're struggling with work today, it's just because you've got long COVID. I started like unconsciously doing this, and you have to be so aware of your mind, otherwise it just fucks with you. But I started like doing this all the time. And then it wasn't until I sat down with a physiotherapist, I see him pretty regularly, like every couple of months. And he was like, what's going on, man? Like, you've lost all your muscle, your strength is gone. And I was just like, yeah, I just got long COVID. And he was like, you need to shut the fuck up. I was like, well, what do you mean? It was like, you need to like look at long COVID not as the thing that's holding you back, but the thing that propels you forward. And I said, well, how do I do that? He said, well, it's kind of like you can look at it like it's like a big reset of your body. It's like, I've been out of action for like 6 months, so I haven't been able to train in the gym. But that's the thing, is I would have been able to train in the gym if I told myself that I just had to reduce my intensity and bring it all the way down to a point that was manageable for my body at the time. And he said, what you can do is you can start to take your training in a completely different direction because you're almost like a beginner. So all of those bad habits you learned with exercise before, all of those things that you were doing that you shouldn't have done, or those workouts that weren't particularly conducive to your body, eradicate and eliminate, and now take yourself on a new trajectory. And so we're working on a different plan, and I'm getting into different sports and stuff now, which is actually a good thing. But the point is that, like, for months, without realizing it, I was giving long COVID power, and it was my choice to do that. Because long COVID, yes, it inhibits your ability to work out with a certain level of intensity that helps you manifest a physical bodily goal of muscle mass or strength or whatever that looks like. For example, if I was training for a marathon and I had long COVID, it would make it significantly harder for me to do the marathon in that time. But it doesn't mean it's impossible, but personally at the time I wouldn't have thought that was possible, so I gave it power. But my point here is, it's like, for as long as you give something power, it will hold you back. And it's up to you. You get to decide yourself whether or not something has power over you. And that could be anything from an absent father when you're younger to a specific mental illness or a diagnosis or anything like that. There was this sprinter from the Paralympics, right? He became one of the greatest Paralympic sprinters and athletes of all time. And the dude had like no legs. What happened when he was younger is he was in an African village that got raided by like a local government or like a terrorist gang, right? That doesn't like the government, trying to overthrow the government. And I kid you not, this dude, I won't go into too much detail, it was awful, but this dude had his mother was, let's say, terminated, because I don't want to use certain words here on YouTube, you get demonetized. His mother was terminated in front of him as a child. His village was burned down. His whole family was terminated, for lack of better words, and it was outright awful. And then the people who did that to his family and burned down his village chopped off both of his legs as well. He recovered in hospital and went on to become a Paralympian, one of the best in the world, and became this sprinter. And when I heard about his story, I actually cried, because he was saying, like, I had a choice. Like, I could have used this past and I could have used all of these things that have happened to me as an excuse, and all of the trauma I could have hidden behind it and said I can't do anything because of my trauma or because of my physical inabilities. But the dude became a fucking athlete. And I thought about that, and I was like, if he of all people can not use his past as a shield to prevent him from growing, then I think anyone can. And so this is just a quick lesson, one that I've learned, a little mindset shift that I've had, and it served me incredibly well, and I hope you find it useful, because if I can shift your paradigm, like, look at your life right now, look at where you want to be and look at where you are, and then look at the thing that you're pointing at that's saying, like, you're like, I can't get to where I want to be because of that. People from India, for example, are always worried about their accents, and they're like, I don't want to do cold calling or sales calls because I think people will judge me for my accent. And it's like, you need to stop giving this idea that an Indian accent is going to be bad for your business, because it's like, it will only be bad for as long as you give it power, because if you give it power, your action and drive and motivation to act is inhibited, because ultimately something has power over you that's inhibiting that action. And so that's something I've learned, and I hope you found this video helpful. So look at your life, look at where you want to be, look at what you're pointing at, and look at what you're giving power to, and see if you can reverse that and switch it around to flip the power so it actually works in your favor, not against you, because you haven't got much of a choice. It's the only other option you've got, right? But anyway, that's everything for this video. I hope you find it helpful. By the way, if you run a marketing agency or a coaching business, the first link in the description, you can go to it. It's a funnel. It basically is a video of me explaining how we could help you systemize client acquisition. You can click it or not, I don't mind. If anything, you could give us a little break, because we've got 3 sales reps and their calendars are completely full. If you want more clients and you're struggling to acquire clients, click the first link in the description. If there's no availability, then keep trying again, because we're just so full at the moment. It's quite a good thing. And yeah, subscribe if you like the video, like if you like the video, and comment if you have anything to say. I read all the comments, so I look forward to that. Have a good day. Take care.